Hi, this is Kylie with Fem and Flow. I hope everyone's having a great day. Today, I want to talk about spirals and how the universe is a spiral. I think this topic is super, super interesting. The nature of our universe is spirals of energy, and energy is constantly moving, and life is created in spirals. And you can think of a spiral of energy up as high vibrational energy, and a spiral of energy down is low vibrational energy. And the different dimensions that I discussed in other episodes are just different frequencies of energy all spiraling together. It's not like separate layers of a cake, it's all spiraling together. And our own personal energy field is a spiral of energy as well. The spiral of energy is called a toroidal flow. And when I say spiraling of energy, I mean a toroidal flow of energy. The nature of our universe is all a toroidal of energy. So before we get going, I'll read off Grok, which is X's AI language model. I'll read off what the difference is between toroidal flow, torus, and toroid. And it hit me, I've been pronouncing some of these words very wrong. I actually recorded this whole episode and I pronounced it all wrong, so I'm going to go back through and change those sentences and redo it. But I know I've been pronouncing toroidal flow wrong, so just FYI, if you listen to past episodes, I've been saying it wrong. A torus is a geometric shape formed by revolving a circle in three-dimensional space around an axis coplanar with the circle. It looks like a donut or an inner tube. It has one continuous surface with no edges or corners. A torus can be described mathematically by its major radius, which is the distance from the center of the tube to the center of the torus, and minor radius, which is the radius of the tube itself. Now we'll talk about toroid. A toroid can refer to any object or structure that has the shape of a torus. In physics, particularly in electromagnetism, a toroid is a coil of wire wound around a torus-shaped core used in transformers or inductors. The term toroid often implies a physical object rather than just the geometric shape, emphasizing its application in various fields like engineering or physics. Now we'll talk about toroidal flow. Toroidal flow describes a flow pattern where fluid or particles move in paths that follow the shape of a torus. This can occur in plasmas, fluids, or even in astrophysical contexts. In fusion research, like in tokamaks, plasma can have a toroidal flow where it circulates around the torus-shaped confinement vessel. This flow can influence plasma stability and confinement properties. Okay, so just a little summary. The torus is the shape itself. Toroid generally refers to a physical object shaped like a torus, often with specific applications in mind. And then toroidal flow describes the motion of substances within or around a torus-shaped structure. Here are some examples of natural phenomenon or structures that involve spirals of energy or toroidal flows of energy. Galaxies. The first one is galaxies. Many galaxies, including the Milky Way, have the structure where stars, gas, and dust flow in a spiral around a central core. And another is the spiral of shells. The nautilus is famous for its logarithmic spiral shell, which expands and grows but maintains the same shape. The next thing I'll mention is DNA. The double helix of DNA molecules forms a spiral structure, and this structure is essential for life and genetic information storage. Then the next thing, pine cones and sunflowers. The arrangement of seeds or scales often follows the Fibonacci sequence, and that creates a spiral pattern. Then, very much related to that one, would be flower petals and seed heads. The arrangement of petals in many flowers and the seeds and seed heads, like sunflowers that I mentioned, follow the Fibonacci sequence, which results in spiral patterns for optimal packing. And then the next item I'll mention is magnetic fields of planets. Earth's magnetic field can be visualized as a torus, where magnetic field lines loop around from the north to the south pole, and that creates what's known as a magnetosphere. Then the next thing, smoke rings. When smoke is expelled in a certain way, it can form rings or torids due to the behavior of the fluid dynamics involved. Then the next thing, solar prominences. Sometimes solar prominences can form loops that resemble parts of a torus, especially when viewed during solar flares. So, two more things I'll mention. The next one is plasma and fusion reactors. Like I mentioned above, in experimental fusion devices like tokamaks, plasma is continued in a toroidal shape to facilitate fusion reactions. Then the last thing I'll mention here is black holes. The accretion disk around black holes often have a toroidal structure where matter spirals inward, and this generates energy through friction and magnetic fields. Okay, so those are some examples. And if you've listened to my other episodes on the 9 dimensions we currently can access energetically, then you already know this. But the ninth dimension is a black hole that creates a universe. So there it is on the big picture. Our universe is in the shape of a big torus, and the energy field created around it is a toroidal flow of energy generated by this black hole. And then within it, as we get smaller and smaller, the energy continues to be made up of smaller torus shaped energy fields. And that even gets down to our own bodies and the toroidal flow of our own energy field. Then the eighth dimension, that's the first step down from the ninth dimensional energy of a black hole. This is what we call God or source energy. And this is the highest vibrational or highest frequency of energy that is available to us. It's pure light and is made up of photons. And God is the great mystery. And the vastness of God's divine order transcends complete human understanding. We see glimpses of God's beauty through the intricate patterns of mathematics, the mysteries of quantum physics, and the seamless workings of nature, and our exploration of the multidimensional universe. This pure light, pure source energy, steps down to create sound, sacred geometry, synchronicity, life, beauty, and literally all things. And all of these things follow God's divine order, which is this beautiful, magnificent order that goes beyond our comprehension. In other episodes, I've mentioned the Solfeggio frequencies, but in this episode, I'll be going more in depth on those and tying the different frequencies to the energy of the 9 different dimensions that I talk about. And this will really give a lot of insight and tie into that big picture idea so we really understand this energy and how the universe works. So, to start off, let's talk about the origin of these different frequencies. The Solfeggio frequencies are sound frequencies derived from an ancient musical scale used in sacred music. Notably, one example is the Gregorian chants. And these frequencies are believed to have healing properties and are associated with spiritual benefits. They were rediscovered by Dr. Joseph Paleo and Dr. Leonard Horowitz in the 1970s through numeral reduction from the Book of Numbers in the Bible. And the Solfeggio scale consists of 6 primary tones, but then later 3 more were added to the scale, so there's 9 different frequencies in total. These frequencies correspond to the 9 different dimensions that we currently can access energetically. And these are the different dimensions that I talk on and on about in every episode because literally it's so important and explains the divine nature of God and how we can truly anchor in and truly live in harmonic resonance with this energy and therefore live our best life. And remember, dimensions 9 through 4 are non physical, and then dimensions 3 through 1 are physical. So I mentioned how the frequencies directly correspond to the 9 different dimensions. It gets a little more interesting when we talk about the 8th dimension, which is God, source energy, or the divine mind. And I've mentioned this before. I didn't go in this full depth on the other episode, but I did mention that 528 hertz, which represents transformation to miracles, and it's often referred to as the love frequency, that frequency corresponds to the 5th dimension. And the 5th dimensional energy is love, pure bliss, synchronicity, miracles, and life. That's just to name a few. It's really beyond our human comprehension, but I'll try to explain what I can. So, I mentioned the 8th dimension, which is God, source energy, the divine mind. I mentioned how it's special when it comes to the frequencies and how it's unique when you compare it to the other 8 dimensions. And that's because it's actually 8 of the Solfeggio frequencies all at once. They're all vibrating in this beautiful harmonic resonance. And you may have heard this before, but this could be termed the voice of God. So let's start with the 9th dimension. This is the black hole that creates a universe. 963 hertz is associated with the pineal gland activation. Our pineal gland is essentially our antenna that connects us to these higher dimensional energies, and it connects us to the all. It makes sense that the black hole that creates a universe is associated with 963 hertz, which activates the pineal gland, since the pineal gland is what connects us to this whole universe. It's really, really beautiful. So now let's talk about the 8th dimension. It's pure light. It's the highest vibration or highest frequency of energy that is possible. It's God, it's source energy, it's the divine mind. And I already mentioned that it's 8 of the Solfeggio frequencies all vibrating at once in a harmonic resonance. So it's 852 hertz, 741 hertz, 639 hertz, 528 hertz, 417 hertz, 396 hertz, 285 hertz, and 174 hertz, all playing at once in a beautiful harmonic resonance. And like I mentioned, you could call this the voice of God. Harmonic resonance from frequencies refers to the phenomenon where different frequencies, when played together or in sequence, creates a harmonious interaction due to their mathematical relationships. And this potentially amplifies their individual effects, and this leads to a more profound experience for the listener. And this is often associated with deep relaxation, healing, and positive mental states. Proponents believe that when these frequencies are listened to, they can resonate with the body's natural vibrations, and this could potentially lead to positive changes in mood, stress levels, and overall well being. Our universe is created from a black hole, from a point of singularity, and it's literally all made up of propagated light. And the propagated light is the highest vibrational energy. And these strings of energy are vibrating at these 8 different frequencies I mentioned. And vibrating sound creates patterns. These patterns form what we call sacred geometry. The sound vibration creates a sacred geometrical form, and these forms make up our physical reality. So, just to summarize this all before I get going on more, I'm just going to do a quick summary on what the 9 different dimensions that we can currently access energetically, what they are exactly, because We just need this quick summary to tie it to my next point into the next information. So I mentioned that the ninth dimension is a black hole that creates a universe. And then the eighth dimension is God propagated light, the highest vibrational energy, source energy, the great mystery. And we call it the great mystery because even though, yes, we can explain the big picture like this, when you start to dig into it, it's the most magnificent thing. And truly, it's beyond human comprehension. And then the seventh dimension is sound vibrations. The sixth dimension is sacred geometry. So, just summarizing those four different dimensions and what they're all about, it shows on a big picture how the propagated light moves into sound waves, which create sacred geometrical forms. Do you see how that is all related? And it all goes back to the Solfeggio frequencies. So now I'm about to tie these different dimensions to the specific Solfeggio frequencies that it's correlated to. The seventh dimension, which is the realm of sound vibrations, is correlated to 741 hertz frequency. And 741 hertz is associated with activating intuition. This makes sense because when we are using intuition and tapping into that, we are really tapping into God, source energy, the divine mind, to receive higher level understanding and insight that we couldn't grasp from a limited perspective. And if we think about it in this term, if seventh dimensional energy is sound vibrations and it's associated with intuition, and intuition is getting insight from God, how cool is it to think about this as that sound vibration is God whispering in our ear? That's just personifying the energy, which it's fun to think about it in these beautiful metaphors. So then we move down to the sixth dimension, which, like I mentioned, it's ruled by sacred geometry, and it's correlated to 639 hertz frequency. 639 hertz frequency is associated with connecting, reconnecting, and relationships. If you think about this in terms of sacred geometry, geometric patterns and forms are literally how these particles connect together, the patterns and the relationships they form. As above, so below. This is the big picture. And when I first said connecting, reconnecting, and relationships, you probably were thinking about this on a more personal, emotional level, but that's also the case. This personal translation of it is a microcosm, where the sacred geometrical concept is the macrocosm. We are literally a microcosm of the entire universe, of all there is. We also see this concept reflected in the Bible. Genesis 1:27 says, "So God created man in his own image. In the image of God he created him. Male and female he created them." God and the universe are reflected in us and in nature. As above, so below. We see this handiwork of God everywhere. And this is the divine order of God, the divine order of source energy. It's this insanely beautiful, insanely intricate of how all of this energy is connected and how it all works. It's really, really stunningly beautiful when you think about it. Then we move into the fifth dimension. The fifth dimension gives life. It's the energy of bliss, love, synchronicities, beauty, life, and miracles. The energy of the seventh dimension, which is the sound vibrations, steps down into the sixth dimension, where the sound vibrations form geometrical patterns, which is sacred geometry. And that mathematical order steps down into the fifth dimension, where this order then creates miracles, beauty, life, and all things blissful and synchronistic. The fifth dimension is associated with 528 hertz frequency, which is the frequency of transformation and miracles. This makes sense by what I just said as well. The fifth dimension, 528 hertz, transforms this energy of order into miracles and life. It's extremely beautiful. Then the fourth dimension is the realm of archetypes, myths, and the collective mind. You can view it as a canopy that lays over the physical realms. It's the veil, essentially. Some refer to this realm as the astral realm. It sets the programming, sets the vibe, and creates the fairy tale land of the physical experience. It can also be viewed as a matrix. You can also think of this dimension as an energetic filter. The higher dimensional energy filters through the fourth dimension to then personify the energy to create archetypes and set up the physical experience or the fairy tale land, like I mentioned. I realized while writing all of this episode down, I mention archetypes basically in every episode because it's tied with the fourth dimension, and that explains so much. So I realize I've never actually explained what an archetype is. An archetype is a universally recognized symbol, theme, or character that reoccurs across various cultures and literature. And it often represents fundamental human experiences or aspects of the human psyche. Archetypes serve as foundational elements in understanding human nature, storytelling, and the exploration of identity and psyche across different mediums and cultures. You could view archetypes as universal threads that connect and weave together all of humanity. So, to really tie a physical experience together, the archetypes of that experience are really important because it creates a point of connecting all of the beings in that experience and helps them understand each other and be living aligned in that common theme. 417 hertz frequency correlates to the fourth dimension, and 417 hertz is associated with change and new cycles. This makes total sense because, like I mentioned, the fourth dimension essentially sets the vibe of the physical experience. It makes sense it would be associated with change and new cycles. On a big picture level, I said previously that the whole universe is a big spiral of energy. And then this fourth dimension creates a new spiral of energy. So in this way, you can view the universe spiral as the macrocosm and the fourth dimensional unique experience as a new spiral and a microcosm. The macrocosm and microcosm relationship are fractals of each other. This macrocosm and microcosm relationship and fractal pattern goes on forever, for infinity. This mind-blowing, incomprehensible pattern for infinity is the incomprehensible magnificence of God. The third through first dimensions are physical dimensions, and how the experience operates depends on the energy of the non-physical realms. The higher dimensional energy are not separate layers like I've mentioned a few times. All of the energy is all spiral together. The third dimension is the realm of biological life, including humans, plants, and animals. The third dimension is associated with 396 Hz frequency, and 369 Hz frequency is associated with liberation. This makes sense because the third dimension is a physical realm, and it's the realm of biological life. As a living being, we are liberated to live in this physical experience. We go from being a non-physical soul to then being able to be living in physical experiences, and this liberates us. The second dimension is Earth's magma core, minerals, crystals, energy portals, and energy vortexes. The second dimension is associated with 285 Hz frequency. The 285 Hz frequency is associated with healing tissues and organs. This makes sense because our bodies are energetic vessels and they also need minerals to be healthier and also to properly conduct energy. Our bodies are our energetic tools to interact in the physical experience, and how we radiate the frequencies needed to create our reality. The first dimension is Earth's iron core, and it anchors in gravity on this 1 through ninth dimensional axis. The first dimension is associated with 174 hertz, and that's associated with pain relief. And this makes sense because when we ground or put our bare feet on Earth, the Earth essentially takes in that low vibrational energy and absorbs it, and it transmutes it into neutral energy. That can also help and be associated with pain relief. High vibrational energy moves in an upward spiral, while low vibrational energy moves in a downward spiral. So now let's connect this to black holes and white holes. Black holes pull matter in, while white holes push matter out, or in other words, black holes spiral down while white holes spiral up. A black hole is a region of space-time where gravity is so strong that nothing, not even light, can escape once it crosses the event horizon. Black holes are the result of the gravitational collapse of massive stars after they have exhausted their nuclear fuel. In theoretical physics, a white hole is the hypothetical time reverse of a black hole. Instead of absorbing matter, a white hole would eject matter and energy. It's a region of space-time from which matter and light can only escape. In black holes, the event horizon is a point of no return inward, while in white holes, it's a point from which everything must exit. Both black holes and white holes come from a point of singularity, and they are the reverse of each other. In this way, you can view them as dualities of each other. On an Earth level perspective, and tying it into other things I talk about, in realms that fully resonate with all higher dimensional energies and what we archetypally call heaven, these universes are created from a white hole, and all the energy is in an upward spiral. This is all high vibrational energy, and we can't even access the low level vibrations and frequencies like we currently experience on Earth, which, like I mentioned, the universe Earth is in is currently created from a black hole. Remember, the black hole is lower level frequencies and is a downward spiral of energy. I will link in a sketch of this so you can look at it and follow along. I'll link that in the show notes, but I'll explain it. So you have one point of singularity, and then coming from that, there's two triangles coming out of that point of singularity, and it looks like an hourglass. So the bottom triangle is a black hole, and the top triangle is a white hole. And the black hole, the energy goes in a downward spiral, and the white hole, the energy moves in an upward spiral. And in a black hole, there's duality and polarity. And remember, polarity is the gradient of vibrations and frequencies. An example is how on Earth we access and can feel this wide range of different emotions, and those correlate to different emotional frequencies. And then duality is black and white, or the two sides of the spectrum. So then when we look at the white hole, there's no duality and there's no polarity. It's all high vibe enlightenment level frequencies. To be specific, when I say this enlightenment level frequency, I'm specifically referring to a harmonic resonance of the 8 Solfeggio frequencies that make up the 8th dimensional God energy or source energy. So in a white hole, there's no duality, no polarity. We are just vibing in that harmonic resonance that we call the voice of God. And this is all love, all bliss, follows God's divine order, and is magnificent and so wonderful. And Earth once was created from a white hole, but when the false matrix was put into place that cut humanity off from higher dimensional energies, the polarity shifted, and then it was created from a black hole. Remember, the black hole and white hole both came from the same point of singularity, but it depends on the frequency or the vibration of energy if the energy is in a downward spiral or an upward spiral. And remember, downward spiral equals black hole, upward spiral equals white hole. Upward spiral means no duality, no polarity. You are just vibing in the voice of God. And that is the beautiful harmonic resonance of the Solfeggio frequencies. In a previous podcast episode called Savior Complex, I talked about the shift and how Earth will undergo a shift in polarity. I also mentioned how polarity is a spectrum of energy. It's a gradient of high vibrational energy to low vibrational energy, and duality is black and white, the opposites of the spectrum. And I also talked about how souls experience the widest range of frequencies on Earth, and by that I mean you can experience the lowest frequencies. But in what we might call the higher realms, or in the realms that are created in a universe from the white hole, we aren't dipping into these lower frequencies like we do currently on Earth. And all of this is because currently on Earth, we are cut off from these higher dimensional energies. We are not anchoring them in and resonating with the frequencies like our divine nature aligns with. We are not vibing in that harmonic resonance of God, which is the 8 Solfeggio frequencies, all in a beautiful harmonic resonance. We are currently cut off from that beautiful harmony. So I'm going to repeat some stuff from my last episode because it's really important here. And then we're going to tie it in with this topic, and it's going to be like a, oh my gosh, aha moment. Okay, like I just said, in these, what I'll call the higher realms, we're not dipping into these low frequency emotions or frequencies like we do on Earth. That's a differentiation of white hole versus black hole and where that universe comes from. The collective consciousness or collective mind is part of the fourth dimension. The fourth dimension is the realm of archetypes, myths, and the collective mind. All of the beliefs and frequency of humanity make up the collective mind, and as more people awaken to the truth and raise their vibration or frequency, it impacts the collective mind or the collective consciousness. Once a critical mass is reached, then the polarity will shift. First, we had to break the false matrix of Earth by anchoring in higher dimensional energies into Earth's magnetic grid, and now we need to shift the polarity of the fourth dimension collective consciousness. And many have called this the shift. And we even see this concept in organized religion, like the Christian Bible calls it the rapture. The concept is just shifting from this reality we're living into now, shifting into what we would archetypally call heaven. This polarity shift will bring upon heaven on earth, where earth will fully resonate with all higher dimensional energies, and it will be total freedom and bliss. Specifically, it will resonate with the beautiful harmonics created by the 9 Solfeggio frequencies I talked about before. Remember, the 8 Solfeggio frequencies make up the voice of God and is the beautiful harmonic resonance of the 8th dimension. This concept of a polarity shift ties to the quantum physics concepts of polarity and phase transitions. In quantum systems, shifting polarity from one side to another often represents a type of phase transition where the collective behavior of particles changes due to external conditions like temperature, pressure, or magnetic field. When a critical mass, often a certain number of particles or an energy threshold, is reached, this phase transition can happen abruptly, tipping the system's polarity. We are here to collectively embody light, which is extremely high frequency energy, and this anchors in higher dimensional energies into Earth's magnetic grid. And this impacts the collective mind or the collective consciousness of Earth, which is connected to the fourth dimension. And we will hit a certain energetic threshold and the polarity will shift. Okay, so let's tie this back to the black hole versus white hole concept. So, up until now, I've always said that the ninth dimension is a black hole that creates a universe. That's the current case on Earth. The universe Earth is in is created from a black hole, and I explained earlier why this came to be. Universes are also created from white holes, though. And actually, this is the natural state, a universe being created from a white hole. The only way a universe can be created from a black hole is with malice intent by cutting it off from higher dimensional energies, like was done to Earth. This whole universe discussion goes deeper, but I won't get into all the details right now. The point is, when we shift polarity, like I mentioned above, we will be switching from a universe created from a black hole to a universe that is created from a white hole. And like I mentioned, I did a sketch to explain this, and I'll link it in the show notes so it makes more sense. I'll just repeat it again, though, because it's really important. So, out of the point of singularity, we have a black hole and a white hole. It looks similar to an hourglass. The white hole is high vibrational energy that spirals up, and the black hole is low vibrational energy spiraling down. In the black hole universe, there's duality and polarity. I talk about this very often. And there's a wide range of frequencies in this universe, including low vibrational frequencies. This wide range of frequencies makes up the gradient, which is polarity. Then in the white hole universe, there is no duality and no polarity. The frequency is all enlightenment level vibrations, which correlates to the 8 Solfeggio frequencies I mentioned. And all of those 8 frequencies are in harmonic resonance, and you could call this the voice of God. The Fibonacci sequence describes the spiral of the universe. It's a naturally recurring set of numbers, and the sequence creates fractals. A fractal image can be infinitely zoomed into forever. It just keeps going and going. So, in the beginning of the episode, I started it off by talking about some examples in nature that follow a spiral or a torus or the Fibonacci sequence. So, now I want to mention some I skipped on purpose. And 3 of the things I purposefully skipped are tornadoes, hurricanes, and cyclones. So, we all know these natural disasters, they cause a lot of pain, a lot of damage, and we view these as negative things. Those are downward spirals of energy. Those cannot happen in a white hole. Isn't that pretty interesting? I've linked a similar table in another episode, and it's in that Google Drive folder titled Podcast Materials. But when I first did it all and published it in that folder, I did not include how those 9 different dimensions correlated to the 9 Solfeggio frequencies. I did mention that the 5th dimension correlated to 528 hertz, but I did not go into detail with the other dimensions. As you can see, when we talk about all of this information, we get really nuanced, we get really in depth, and you start to see how literally all of it is so tied together and it's so magical. But point is, I'm going to put out a new sketch of this 9-dimensional axis, and it will show 1 through 9th dimensional energies, what the specific dimension is associated with, the Solfeggio frequency it is associated with, and what that Solfeggio frequency correlates to, essentially the spiritual benefits per se. And I'll even mention the chakras that they correlate to. It's literally all tied together because all of this energy is completely connected to God, and this is an example of God's divine order. This is how it all works. And this energy is completely essential to us. But we have been lied to and misguided, and this has all been hidden. But this explains so much truth. So it's really important that we really learn this, we really understand it, And once you understand this, you will literally start seeing it in things you may have thought were mundane or unrelated. You will start to see God's beauty, God's magnificence, God's divine order everywhere. Like you probably know by now, I do not drink alcohol, but I was recently at a Christmas party and they did a wine tasting, but it wasn't about the wine, it was about the shape of the stemware. And the whole concept was about how much the shape of the stemware impacts the taste of the wine. Like I said, I don't drink, so I wasn't drinking it, but I was smelling them. And I will say the concept and the examples were crazy. It was definitely true, and I saw how much the glass shape could impact the taste of the wine or the smell of the wine. It was actually pretty crazy. And as you probably know, when you have a glass or crystal, when you tap it, like you tap it with a pin or a fork or a knife, it makes a sound vibration. And the shape of the glass will impact the sound vibration. I was just sitting there listening and I whispered to my husband that this is totally tied to the different dimensional energies. And the company that made the glassware, they're probably not aware of all of the physics or this divine order behind why a certain shape would be more beneficial for the taste of a certain wine. But that's still the order behind it. You know what I mean? It's really, really beautiful. Because if you think about it, if the shape of a glass impacts the taste, I would say the taste of it is related to the third dimension physical and perhaps the different minerals, the different particles or aspects of the physical wine. But ultimately, it goes back to the sound vibration, and certain vibrations create a certain sacred geometrical shape. And that forms the shape of the glass that they're saying causes the taste of the physical wine to change. It's all just really cool. And that's what I mean by once you understand the different dimensional energies and how it all works and how it's all connected, you start to see this beauty and this divine order of God in everyday life. And that's when you really start to have a deep appreciation and deep respect and deep reverence for God, for the universe. So that's all I have for this episode. I hope you like that. I love this episode. I think it's so interesting and really ties in this beauty and God's divine order. It ties it all together, and I love this episode. So if you liked it as much as me, please send to a friend or send to loved ones or someone you think it'll resonate with. Every share really helps, and I really appreciate it. I'm honestly just trying to share all of this information and share this truth to help humanity and help bring heaven to earth. Seriously. I have a deep, deep love for humanity, and I really just want to help. And I truly believe this is totally my mission here, why I came. So truly, it means the world to me when people listen, when they share, when they like the content. It means so much. Also, if you like it, please subscribe. I love you all and have a great week.